sponsor of Gather Together, Grow Together. We provide transportation, affordable transportation. All right, everyone. Welcome back. It is the best hour of your week. So glad that you can join us. Man, we are at our old original time today because we both have somewhere to be at 1 o'clock. So we're coming to you an hour early. But of course, you will see this probably trigger you if you have. Let me turn this down just a little bit. If you have a alert set, do like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification bell, and you will always get reminded whether we go early or on a different day, whatever the case may be. And I already see 3 people in here that have joined us already. So people are getting the notifications. So welcome. So glad to see you. But I don't do this alone, right? There is someone who is always waiting in the wings to provide you with what you need for another day to sustain you, to be resilient in your day, in your week, in your month, in your year. Mark Boatwright Frog.
Peace out.
So, I've been affectionately calling you Mr. October. Maybe it should just be Mr. Resilient. How's that?
Well, that works. Though October is an interesting time to think about. So, coming up in 2 days is September, right?
Yeah.
So September is when autumnal equinox is.
The what?
The autumnal equinox, like autumnal equinox, and that is when the daytime and the nighttime are in equal balance. Right now, we still have more light than we have dark. But as of the 21st of September, it will shift into darker times. And every day after that will get darker and darker until Yule or winter solstice. And going into thinking about October, as times get darker, we should take a little time to think about, are we ready for the dark times? Are we ready psychologically? Are we ready emotionally? Are we ready practically for the dark times? If you have heat by fireplace, you should probably be thinking about getting wood right now and making sure that you're ready to go. In the dark times, we tend to have a lot of power outages as well because a lot of electric heat here. You should think about that. You should think about having ready food in background, having water backed up, having all of those things. So as we head into the dark, I always like to do a checklist of things that I need to have on the shelves and in my life to prepare for the dark times, because it's colder. During the summer, if things go bad, you can just go outside because it's nice and overly hot these days, but you could survive better. When it's really cold, not so much. So, and then we also need to think about our fellow humans that are unhoused and what they're going to be facing, because we're going to be coming into the time where we have cold weather shelters opening. So this is a good time to reflect, think, and take some action to get ready for the dark time.
Man, you took it seriously. I was thinking, if it's coming more to the dark side, I can say blue
That's true. You need to turn your volume up just a hair. It's a little too low now.
Okay. Is that better?
But yeah, there you go. Now you sound like we're in the same room.
Good.
All right. So
Hey,
today's
Justin, thanks for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, Justin. So today's topic is if I had it to do again.
So it's a therapy session.
Sort of. But I want the focus to be, are you happy with who you are now?
Interesting.
So I am far from perfect, and I've had a lot of things in my life that I am not proud of. I've had regrets from things that have happened. But you know something? Every single thing that happened made me who I am now. So the question I have to ask is, am I happy with myself now? Are you good with you? And if you're not, you have to ask the next question: why aren't I good with me?
So I've got two ways to answer this. Right?
Is there an answer?
There's an answer. I have an answer.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Your mic just
I
went
have,
out for a minute.
I have
Yeah,
two answers.
your mic is fading in and out.
Oh, I'm probably too far. Hold on, all right, how's that? Is that a little better?
Yeah, that's better. You were breaking up, so I don't know if it was a signal or what.
Yeah, I probably was too far away there.
Okay.
So I have two answers on that. The first
Mhm,
answer is uh, I believe that I'm living in my purpose, right? As you know,
mhm,
believe in God. I'm a Christian, person, practicing Christian, whatever that means for folks. You can do with it what you will. I believe I'm living in my purpose, right? I think I'm
mhm,
doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm being obedient in that. So in that, yes, I think, if I had it to do again, I probably wouldn't do many things different, if anything, just because I know what I'm supposed to do, right? Now, on the flip side, yeah, obviously, I think in all things, I can be a content person, but I'm a lifelong learner. So I will never be to the point where I'm content and I'm just like, you know what? There's nothing else for me to do. I've done it all, right? I can always get better. I can always achieve. I can always help another person. I can always make the world a better place in the little ways to do that. So, in that, it's a two-pronged answer, but I wanted to give it that way because
mhm.
if I say no, then people could take it the wrong way and say, well, you need some therapy or you need to talk to somebody or yada, yada, yada. So I want to keep some nuance there, if you will.
Yeah, and for me, the answer is not that different. I am not Christian. I am pretty much not religious in any way, but I feel like I'm living in my purpose.
Hmm.
And my purpose is to be the best human being I can be and to help others rise to a level that they can be, whatever that is. Um, and encompassed within that, I am happy with who I am, is the need to ask the next question, the need to learn more, the need to engage and see things more clearly. So all of the things that I've done, good and bad, have led me to where I am now. So I'm happy with that. Could I do more? Absolutely. Um, but
Are
I
you
do
gonna
what I
do more?
can. Oh, every day.
I love it.
So yeah, we are doing the work that we were meant to do. And the more people that come together with us, the more work gets done. So if you guys want to be happy with yourselves and happy with the community, come join Marwan and I and our group, a group of merry men and women in helping to create a better world, because that's what we do and we feel good about it every day. So that's it. That's the end of the show.
Well, that was an easy one today.
Yeah,
That's funny.
you're not going to let me off that easy though.
Oh no,
Um, and there we go. Um, Shave and haircut. 2 bits, 5 bits, 4 bits, whatever. Um, so, how do you get happy with yourself? And our world really isn't designed for people to be happy with themselves, is it? Marwan?
oh, I don't think it is.
So, okay.
I had to type Mark a private note. Or maybe I'm just my mindset is in a different place today.
Yeah, well, it's possible, but the whole point of what we do is say it different ways so people hear it differently.
Oh man, yeah, please, because I'm
Okay,
hearing it one way and now I'm stuck.
so in our world, and you've heard us talk about the cultural AI, the toxic cultural engine that we have, the messaging we get 24/7 all the time to keep us from moving forward and keep us stuck where we are.
Uh huh.
That prevents us from finding our happiness to a great degree. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I say, it's hard in our lives to find that happiness, to find meaning, because meaning is really an unclear concept in our culture. It's like meaning is going to work every day, but we frequently hate that because all we're doing is marking time till we retire,
Mm,
and or just trying to survive, which is even worse because the paycheck to paycheck, you're trying to figure out if you're going to have a home next month. You're going to, let alone trying to get your child through school. And then when you look at the school system and you look at, I've put all this money away from school, but it's not enough for my child to go to school. And this is if you're doing well. This means you're in the 60 percentile and up. Um, you're doing well enough to afford your child's education, but you find out it's not enough. Or if it's enough, the schools don't give you the result that you expect to get for the education. And we see this everywhere. I mean, I've had this conversation with many people that I drive around and many people that I talk to in the line of what I do is the whole medical profession these days. It seems more like a checklist than actual awareness of your health. And it all ends with pharmaceuticals. So we can't be healthy without pharmaceuticals. How does that work? And then that asks the next question. Well, if I need pharmaceuticals, is it because our food has nutritional value? And I eat more of it to try and get satisfied, but I'm not ever getting satisfied because it doesn't have any nutritional value.
right.
So all of these things tie together, and you start asking the next question. The pressure from our culture and the answers to the questions, and the feeling that you have no power to do anything, all come together in a way that makes you um, stuck, frozen.
Well, and there's I think as you peel back the layers of the onion, it gets even worse because what? So what do I
Hold
do?
on, I have to say this, and I'm sorry about it. I like parfait. For those of you who've seen Shrek,
What do you peel back first, right? Do you fight nutritional standards? Do you fight unaffordable rent costs and housing costs? Do you fight homelessness? Do you fight, what do you fight first? And
well,
what's
first
going
of
to have
all,
the greatest
first
impact?
of all, you don't fight. Fighting is a waste of energy.
Okay.
What you do is you bring people together and start gently pushing the rock where you need it to be. I see people fight climate change. What are you going to do? Swing at a cloud? No, what you do is you come together and you find the things that will be effective to change, and you start moving those rocks.
Mm.
It's more work and labor than it is fighting.
So I think where I'm getting at in there is folks try different things, right?
Yes,
I think there were some climate change folks that jumped on the freeway the other day to make a point, right? Which just kind of pisses everybody off, and you,
bicyclists did it in San Francisco, and I just rolled my eyes. They
you
closed the
lose the
Golden
point.
Gate Bridge. Yeah,
I don't want to hear what you have to say now. It might be the greatest idea, but you've pissed me off. I can't get to where I'm going.
right.
But at the same time, those folks are like, look, no one is listening. We're reaching this tipping point. We've got to do something now. We've tried to go to city council meetings. We've gone to our legislators at the state, and no one's listening, and on it goes. So now we're doing something more radical. So I think that's what I'm saying when I say fight
Yeah,
is folks are trying to come together and do it, but the powers that be, whether it's through capitalism and businesses profitizing on basic needs, and to a point where it's like, hey, you know what? Okay, get your pound of flesh, but they're taking it all and just leaving a carcass, and it's too much, right?
yeah. They process the carcass too.
Mm, You know what? That's fair. I will. Yeah, they're processing the carcass also, right? Uh,
There will
and
be
it's
nothing left in,
there
in,
will
in
be
the way
nothing.
it's going. There will be nothing left. Before I jump into that particular analogy, I want to talk about a news piece. And you know that I watch Bo, and today he was talking about Wisconsin.
Uh,
And I did not, I had no idea about this, but Wisconsin is apparently well known and statistically proven as one of the most gerrymandered states in the country, like in the
Really?
top 3 or 4, might
Wow.
even be in the top 2. Um, and they've just got a Supreme Court justice who's on the liberal side, which turned their Supreme Court to a more liberal court. And coming up on the docket is a gerrymandering a suit about the gerrymandering so that people could get fair voice.
Hmm.
So the Congress in the state told the judge she needs to recuse herself or they will impeach her. Now, in the long term, they have no grounds to impeach, but the impeachment process will suspend her during the time of that legislation
Okay.
so that they can continue keeping gerrymandering, continue to keep their power. This is how games are being played all over the country by people who can't maintain power if it isn't is a, if it's a fair playing field. So going back to our initial conversation about the process, the carcass, as long as we don't have a fair playing field, that's going to be the case. And the only way to get a fair playing field, going back to our folks who jumped on the freeway, is to learn how to bring people on board and not piss them off, how to
Well,
win them to your side.
what do you say to the people on the other side that are saying it's not fair and that's why we're doing this?
Oh, you mean the people protesting
No,
or
those that are
the
saying that
congressman?
she should recruit herself.
Oh, they're just trying to keep in power. And there's no reason for her to recuse herself. She was just they're using the fact that she quoted the statistics publicly to cause her to recuse herself. She wasn't giving an opinion, she was just quoting statistics.
Right, but don't I want to try to stay in power so I can continue to enact the change that I think is right? I'm asking a stupid question, but I'm just saying.
Well, of course you do, but are you actually staying in power to enact change that you think is right? Or are you staying in power so you can maximize your profit,
So
personal profit?
and so the reason why I asked this question is if we have term limits, then to me that would be one of the ways that we can help to stop that particular action. Would you agree with
Yep.
that?
But we do have term limits. It's called the vote. But as long as gerrymandering's in place, it doesn't matter whether the person's term limit is up. You're still going to end up with a very, you're going to have an unbalanced playing field to vote for. You'll get, the same person part B, because that's how gerrymandering works. It makes sure that the people in the most extreme political stance are the only ones you get a choice for.
So what I would say to that is I think there's a lot of levers that need to be pulled to fix the situation, right? And I believe that's
And
one.
going back to my point is we need to come together to do that.
Mhm.
The only way to move the rock isn't to fight it, but to come together and push together. Because the rock is too big for any one of us or any 10 of us. And to learn how to have those conversations, and I'm going to do a complete plug without shame here. Come to our workshops. That's what we teach. And it doesn't cost you a cent, so there's no profit to us. Come to the workshops and we'll teach you how to have those conversations.
So again, I'm gonna
Go
ask
ahead.
you from the other side.
Isn't that what we do? Isn't that
No,
what
no,
we
no.
do here?
Oh, I'm going to ask you again from the other side, right? Isn't that what the other side is doing, right? They're saying we believe that our way is right, that we have to stay in power because the other side is going to take us down a path that we don't think is good for the country. Whatever you believe they're doing, right? You could, two things can be true at the same time. I want to profiteer off of my position, but I also want to do what I think is right by my state or by my city or by my country, right?
Well,
Both
when
of
you
those things can be true. So those folks are coming together and gerrymandering a district to stay in power, right? So it seems like that side is doing that. So are they
yeah,
doing what you're saying this side should do if that's what we're just making that
no,
kind of
I just think it should be an even playing field and everybody should have a vote. You could do a checkerboard district map that would cover it perfectly well, and whoever falls within the checkerboard is who votes. Don't have checkerboard that looks like a snake going across the state, so that you have all of the red in one place and all of the blue in a tiny little spot in the corner. That's how they work it. That's how
but if that's
gerrymandering
where
works.
people live, right? Do I want people who's let's say I'm conservative, right?
Hmm.
I'm I live in a let's take a look at our district here. We happen to have the district map right here, right?
Yep.
This is District 4, which is the
Hmm.
district that I'm running for, by the way.
Yep.
And so let's say that this was red. Do I want, you know, Democrats or liberals to make decisions for me inside this bubble if most of the people here are conservative?
Well, if most people are there are conservative, you're going to get that voice. The thing is, if most people there are conservative, and you want it to say something different, then you're going to do, you're going to make sure that whatever is conservative on the other side or below also is included in yours. So it only gives one voice. And some of the maps are really extreme to make sure that happens. Wisconsin's being one of them.
And you know, in our own district, just for your own edification, this is District 4 is kind of weird, right? This is Warren Avenue here, and it comes up to the graveyard on the other side over here. This is the
Naval Avenue.
Ivy Green Cemetery.
Yeah.
And then it goes all the way down to the shipyard. It cuts in and then comes down. Why wouldn't it just be a straight line all the way down? You know, and just
No
make a
idea.
block. There's got to be a
Yeah.
reason for it.
Yeah, I have no idea how they were drawn up, but it does not seem to me except for a couple of the people on the council who are from the Gorst area and down near that area, where there's far more conservative people than not. So that ends up coloring it. But for the most part, the council seems pretty balanced. Doesn't seem heavy one way or the other. Let me see if I can pull up Wisconsin's map. I didn't know I was going to be talking this much about it, so
So it makes it fun, right?
go. Yeah, so let me see. Um, oh, this is good. Okay, I'm gonna save a picture and send it to you because this is a good example of.
Just put it in the private chat for me.
I will. I just need to open it up. So um, let's get here. Okay, I'm going to send you a link to a web page, which will come up. It's the easiest way to do this. There we go. There you
Got
are.
it.
So let's talk about that because it's kind of off topic for us, but it's an important topic to understand how people manipulate things so that you don't. That it gives certain people a lot of voice and the other people almost no voice. And to speak statistically, some of the new polls coming out are showing that favoritism toward a lot of the conservative agenda is as low as 23%. It's yeah.
All right. So explain this to us, if you will.
Okay, so in the first one, 50 people, 60% are Republicans and 40%, or 40% are Republicans, 60% are Democrats in red and blue on this,
Hmm.
and it shows them equally represented, so they all have a voice. In perfect representation, that's what it would look like. That you'd have, you know, that broken down. So then you get the 5 blue districts and 0 red districts, which is where the blue gerrymander it so that they stay in power.
Are you talking about number one?
I'm now looking at the third one over.
Okay.
Number
Let
two.
people know that.
Yeah, number two. So number two, it is gerrymandered so that the blue will win all the
How?
time.
How is it gerrymandered?
See where the black lines are?
Yes.
There are 4 reds to 6 blues in every district. So 6 blues will vote in a blue candidate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In the previous one, number one, it is blue districts and red districts each voting for their own candidates. I mean, it shows the balance of the people that are represented there. And then in the third one, it's neither compact or fair. They move it around so that there's a maximization of the blue um, the two blue districts and three red districts, so that the red wins, even though they're the minority.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's what gerrymandering is.
And
It's
so if we're
moving the
looking at,
lines so that it favors one group.
and I'm not saying that, District 4 is gerrymandered. I'm just pointing
No,
out that,
we were just
the
talking
shape
about it.
is interesting,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That's an interesting shape. All right, thank you for that.
Yeah, so that's an understanding of how gerrymandering works. And the best representation is to have the even representation, the first one, so that everybody has a voice. Perfect representation. Everyone has the districts are drawn, and it falls how it falls.
So, and if that's the case, right, and I happen to live in a district, in this example, right, let's say I'm Republican, and
Right.
I'm like, man, I'm in a blue district, and I've got more conservative views. Do I just need to move to a more conservative district, or like, what do I do? Do I encourage more conservatives to move into the district to,
Do you, do
you
you,
know,
do you really want me to answer that question?
Yes, I do, and I want you to
Stop.
be. Hold on,
Yeah.
hold on. I want you to be an elect. Hold on, don't answer it yet. I want you to be intellectually honest because what we
Hmm.
tend to do is it's very. I want to say what we tend to do. It's very easy to vilify conservatives, right? But this happens the other way, right?
Hmm.
So if I'm in a red district, if I'm in Eastern Washington, but I'm a liberal, then what do I do?
Okay, so you know me pretty well by now, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I'm neither red nor blue.
Mm-hmm.
My answer to this is the answer I give every single time I'm asked. Y'all should sit down and determine what the priorities are and talk to each other because it's not partisan. Our lives are not partisan. Our lives are not a political agenda. We already talked about how they have basically commercialized all of the things that we need to survive, and that that it's an unfair balance in rent and food and everything else. This should be universally gray. It should not be a party issue. It should be who's going to take care of us the best, and here's our priorities. Let's work it out. Because I see all of these sections as puzzle pieces, and they need to
Sure.
talk to each other and get by the partisanship.
But if I make my living off of housing,
Mm-hmm.
building affordable housing or unaffordable, depending on your
Whatever the hell
perspective,
that is.
depending on your perspective, right? Then that's kind of an issue. Oh, we got something in the chat here. Justice says gerrymandering allows candidates to choose voters instead of the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Exactly so.
So you can say we can come together, but if I come to the table and say, "Hey, I'm bringing my puzzle piece," but you know what? The way that I take care of my family is building these affordable housing projects, right? And you're like, "We need to get money out of that." Well, that's against my own interest.
Well, the best you can do is lay out everybody's priorities and hope that everybody has ears on to listen. Because I have no objection to somebody building houses and making money off of it. I do have an objection to them building houses, making profit, and it turns out to be a very bad thing for everybody else.
Yeah, but doesn't the market determine, the value of
One
something?
would think so. We just got a notice that I've been meaning to talk to you about anyhow. That
Uh
they're
oh.
raising our rent again, another $100
When?
in November. And the notice had a weird line on it saying that the I can't even remember how it is. I don't have it in front of me. That the state's board of rent or whatever has approved a raise due to pending market states. And I'm like going, okay, so we had 200 and some odd dollar rent raise last year, $100 raise this year. When does it stop? When we can't afford to live here anymore?
Wow. Well, yes, yes, that is the answer to that.
Yeah.
Justin
So,
said,
but I want to know who's making the decisions at the market value of rents, which are, as far as I can tell by average numbers, complete horseshit.
well, I mean, we have all these things that push that rent up, right? We have Seattleites coming over here, uh, fleeing to find cheaper housing while still working in Seattle. We have our biggest employer, the Navy here, and the housing allowance, which also drives it up. Then we also have the feds and HUD that are looking at the prices and setting those prices. So if I'm a
I'm complete fictitious because $104,000 is not the mean income in Kitsap County.
I get it, but if I own a house and I'm renting out an apartment and I'm renting it out for 1,400, but then my neighbor is saying, "Hey, man, I'm renting it out to this Navy
Oh,
family.
I get
I'm
it.
getting
I
Navy.
get it. Oh, I
What are
get
you
it.
gonna
I
do?"
understand it.
I'm struggling too. I don't want to raise the rent, but man, COVID, inflation, yada yada yada. My health, I got to raise it for 100 because my neighbor's getting 1,800, so I've got to do the same. Or maybe I don't do quite 1,800, or you know,
But if you don't raise the money, they're going to raise your insurance costs because of climate change, and you're going to end up being 400 in the hole. I get it. I get it. It's a broken system, and the only way we're going to fix it, I know nobody can see this. The only way we're going to fix it is to come together and make some decisions about doing.
and that's why I believe that the solution has to be radical, right? It's not going to be this piecemeal thing. The way that our country has been doing it from HUD and whatnot is to say, hey, well, if all these external factors are pushing rents up, then we're just going to increase the subsidy. But the problem is that everyone doesn't qualify for a subsidy. So you got regular folks out here that are like, I can't pay the increased rent. I don't work in the shipyard. I work at Arby's. I
Mhm.
work at the mall. And you tell me get another
all of
job or
these all of these great number of jobs that have been created at $15 an hour that can't afford that makes it so you can't afford to live. Yeah, no, I get it. And I'm not saying that's not the case. It's just, and Justin is right. It says, small time landlords are not the problem, but they're the easiest to target. Let's look at empty properties. I mean, the numbers are being manipulated. I don't think anybody doubts that. And I think if we really spend some time asking questions, we could prove that. Um, and they're being manipulated for maximizing profit, but they don't give a damn about whether people can live or not. There has to be an answer that's not that. Or there has to be a parallel answer that we haven't found yet or we haven't had the will to do.
and that's where I think we come to a fundamental cross in the road, right? Where this is America and the pursuit of happiness and don't tread on me and I should be able to capitalize on whatever my endeavor is, right? Creates this system that we're in now. And whether it's healthcare, whether it's food, whether it's housing, that's where we're at. And
And so
more and more
how
people.
do you and I get by because we're doing a lot of good work, but we're really not capitalizing on people's spirits to do it or lives to do it.
Well, that's a long answer for me. So for
Yeah,
me,
same here.
I'm 50, right? And I've been on the other side. And I think in my own situation and others that I know that have spoken similarly, most people have experienced being in the rat race, being in this, the capitalistic pursuit of happiness and the collection of things. And you get to a point, maybe this is what happened to me, where those things aren't my purpose anymore. Like we started this saying, what's happiness? Are you happy? Do you regret? Would you change anything? I'm in my purpose now. And my purpose is not the collection of things, but in the stewardship of my community, right? And so now I don't need a lot, right? So I'm not chasing trying to have a new car, right? My car is a 2006, Chrysler 300, right? That I bought way back then, right? Um, and I was driving down the homeless encampment the other day, and someone was like yelling out, like, "Oh, guy driving around here with a luxury car. Because I could hear that I'm driving by. It's like, yeah, he didn't know who it was in the car. Like you have no idea. But um, I just that I don't have that value set anymore. But everything here is we're programmed to say, hey, we hate the rich, but simultaneously that's what we want to become through the lottery, through just do better, and you can have this too, right? And you have folks that are chasing after Gucci and name brand this and name brand that because that is what is defining of success and happiness. And so you chase these things, right? And this is born into us as children to chase those things. So for me, I've been able to break out of that, but I lived in that for decades.
Mhm.
But now that's not satisfying, right?
Yep. I had a Joseph Abboud suit that I dearly loved until it wore out. That I wore all the time. Yeah, you get to a point where none of that. You start asking a question about whether any of that makes any sense, and it really doesn't. Does it help you love your spouse more? Does it help you raise your children better? Does it help you live a better life? Does any of that matter, or is it a distraction?
But should I not have the right to want what I want, right? I would like to travel and see the world, right? That's
And so
a
would
that's
I.
a great thing. Well,
So would
some
I.
people
But do you know? Back in my day, and I can say that looking straight at you. Back in my day, when people talked about European trips, it was the flight over there, a backpack and youth hostels all the way through as you hiked and walked and pedaled through Europe. And I
that sounds
personally think
terrifying.
and I still think that's probably the best way to see it.
That
There's a
sounds terrifying.
movie. There's a movie I recommend for anybody if you can find it, and it's hard to find it streaming. Called The Way. It was actually produced and directed by Emilio Estevez, and stars his father, Martin Sheen, about a son who was doing the Camino, which is a 900-mile walk or 900 kilometer, I don't remember which, from France to northern Spain and to the Camino monastery. And his son died in a freak storm. So the father, who was a dentist in California, a well-to-do dentist in California, went and took the walk. Came over to get his son's ashes and decided that he was going to finish the walk for his son. So he did the entire walk there, and
Mm.
it was an experience to him that changed everything. The people who were on the walk with him are people he met along the way, the relationships they built, the places they stayed, the things they learned as they went were remarkable. And, I think that the whole idea, while terrifying, also gives you the ability to see the world in a much different way and come away with an experience that gives you a much broader perspective of life.
And in
And
our
I never got a chance to do it. I resent that.
but in our twilight, let me make you the same size here. Sorry about that. But in our
It's okay.
twilight, right? If you were if we were having this conversation with my 20-year-old self, I would give you the bird, right?
Hmm.
Like, no, I want to, you got to live and be in Silicon Valley, right? And be a muckety muck and do all the things. I want to have that experience too. And if I become enlightened on my life journey, then so be it, right? But don't vilify me because I want to see Paris for myself and I want to go to New York. I want to go to wherever, right? I mean, that
Hmm.
was on my bucket list. I actually have a
Did I
timeshare
did I
that I,
vilify did I vilify people? Did I did
yes,
I did I actually vilify people in this?
yes, I believe so. I think people
Okay.
can take it that
Enlighten me.
way.
Enlighten
I,
me.
I
What?
am.
How did I vilify people? Okay.
I'm telling you. I think people can take it that way when we say, what's important to you? What what should we, what is the value set, right? And so you talked about taking that journey. Take that journey because you'll be enlightened. And once you do that, you'll realize that the accumulation of these things or not being a steward of climate change or not trying to be good stewards of the planet, of not being good stewards and bringing your puzzle piece to the table is wrong thinking. It's not overt, but it's in there.
Hmm. Well, you're right, but I'm not the first one to do it by a long shot. I mean, George Carlin did it long before. George Carlin did it long before me.
Well, I'm glad that you can admit it, sir. And
Um,
that's why I love having these conversations because it's difficult, right? Like, how do I try to convince my 20-year-old self that, hey, be happy, be your best self, but do it in these parameters, right? Because that doesn't sound like
oh no,
America.
what I'm saying is blow the parameters wide open, but because American has actually put you in a pretty narrow silo as you move forward and put you on a treadmill towards certain goals.
But
That's
blowing the
the whole model.
parameters open make me Elon Musk and Bill Gates, and you know what I'm
Doesn't
saying?
really. How many of those are there, by the way?
If there were more, probably be worse off than we are.
Yeah, you're breaking up again. I can't hear you.
I said if there were more, we'd probably be worse off than we are now. Thank God
True,
we only have a
but
few as
the
we do.
promise of that is a lie. It's to keep people moving on the treadmill. If you go through the treadmill, it's a lie. It's a giant
Right?
lie.
But think about it, right? Elon Musk, as an example, right, is one man, but commands multi, $1 million, multi-billion dollar projects, right? And employs probably more than 100,000 people over all companies, right? So now you've
Mhm.
got a pyramid scheme of everyone trying to do this, and they're selling to even more people, right? So you don't need anymore because hey, there's the lore right there. You'll never be me, but if I can be the executive, if I can be the executive assistant, I'm making 200, $300,000 a year with stock options, whatever the case may be, right?
So let's go back to the whole climate change thing.
Sure.
At some point, it's not going to matter.
So then YOLO.
Yeah.
If it's not going to matter, then let me get what I can get right now. Let me live it up. Let me be happy. Because right now, in my mindset, this is what happy is. And if you're going to
And
tell me
and
later,
and,
I
and you
can't breathe, I got to wear a mask, I can't go outdoors, this is going to, it's going to be hotter than ever, it's going to be
how
colder than
about this?
ever.
There's no food.
Well, I'm going to
There's
have food,
no
right? Because
food.
I've got money and I'm in my gated community.
Yeah. Are you? Are you going to have food? How many people live in that fantasy? How many people just want to be there? How many people are there? And how many people are trying to look like they're there but aren't? I would say the vast majority.
Are not there? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I would agree with that. The problem is that there is a huge middle that is in the pursuit of that, right?
Yeah, that huge middle is getting smaller all the time, by the way. The poverty level is rising. The poverty in this country, while the numbers haven't changed in the federal government, again, 46% of the people are one paycheck away from homeless. And if
Suicides
the
are up.
rents keep going up, it's going to be a whole lot big more than that. So there's reality and there's our toxic cultural meme.
Absolutely. Justin says, sorry, Justin, we didn't get to this earlier. There's a heavy use of AI that allows small landlords to take out the emotional aspect of raising rent, but it starts from those with the properties, capitalists, and monopolies. That is true. I just saw a YouTube article on that where they're leaving that up to computer programs, and it's
Mhm.
obviously just a heartless, raise this, do that, evict this person. There's no appealing to the humanity of, hey, this situation came up. I can pay a little bit, you know, so that, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
Thank you
So,
for that,
yeah,
Justin.
sorry, folks. Marwan and I have been having a chat conversation, answering some questions, and we were talking about the place I live in, and it's I will say it's still under market, but it is not well maintained. If there was a code inspection, it would be an interesting situation.
Well, I will tell you, I do serve as a committee member on the Bremerton Audit Committee, and that is
Mhm.
one of the things that we're looking into now is to make sure that landlords are one registered and accountable, and then two doing just that. So tune into that. Justin actually came up. They actually allow the public to come in and speak, which the audit committee didn't know. So, it's a great way to hold the city accountable and ask questions. And I think it's awesome. Justin also says
Yeah.
here,
Once
once
again,
again,
rent is about yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Rent is about having another person living off of the passive income of another because that of their place to live. Yeah, it's it's not good anyway. And to answer to make a comment on your previous comment, um, keeping things unemotional and separated is the way we've been doing this for years. Did you know that more pink slips go out to people on Christmas holidays than any other time of year? Why is it corporations want to get rid of people at Christmas? Really? That's about as unchristian as it gets, isn't it?
Well, less and less of this country is Christian. And what that means is it varies a lot.
Yeah. So there's
And
a
your
point I was
rent
going to make
increase,
here.
by the way, is 8% increase, just for
Yeah.
everyone in the chat. And so that was probably a 15 to 20% increase from the previous year. And now this
Mhm.
year it's another 9%. So that's pretty substantial there.
Yeah. Well, and last year's was almost a 30% increase,
You said it was 200,
200 and almost 300.
almost 300.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a plug that we talked about yesterday briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we are the Resilient Ecosystems and the Kitsap Resiliency Project is looking at um, a possible grant opportunity in Kitsap County and Washington State, where monies will be made could be made available to start putting solar on low income housing. And we are looking at several properties right now. We're putting together a team to put together a grant proposal in the next 30 to 40 days. It'll be a year before we hear much about it. But if this comes to fruition, the grant does cover the ability to upgrade the electrical in the homes and the structural structure of the roof, so that it is a big win for apartment owners. That will allow the apartment buildings to start getting solar and reducing the electrical bills for all of the people in the houses. And I think that's fabulous. I'm very excited about doing this. I know that I don't emote very excited, but I'm actually very excited about doing this. Um, and
That's
the
his
team that
excited
I'm,
piece.
yeah, that's my excited face. And the other members of the team are also rolling up their sleeves and getting involved. We're bringing in some contractors to talk to. We're basically looking at the possibility of um, storage as well. So it means that whatever solar is being generated doesn't just go into the grid; it goes into a storage facility and feeds back into the house during the darker night, during night and such. So it's not limited.
Love it.
So,
I love it.
and
Yeah.
Marwan said I should talk about it before it happens, and I said, "Oh, I'll announce it on the program."
It's good to let people know, what we're doing.
Hmm.
That's beyond just trying to, and I would say just trying, aside from getting people together and
Yes.
talking and building community and trying to solve the problems and be in a group. Uh, I think that's important to say, hey, we're looking into, the most high impact ways for water for all or energy for all, right? And so I think it's good to share that. Justin says Marwan is the audit committee, the one that would figure out how many housing properties and apartments are empty in Bremerton. You know what? That's a really good question. I think definitely ask. If you're available to come up, I can also inquire from my side. I'll tell you, Justin, and everyone else listening, the reason why I got on the audit committee is we've got a huge budget here in the city of Bremerton, and you want to know where the money's going. And the only way to know, like we can complain and say they should do this and they should do that. But if we don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it, then how are we going to make a change aside from saying you should do this? And it's like, well, you don't understand. All right, I want to understand. So the way to understand is to get on the committee and then broadcast it out to the masses. So it's like, hey, look, everyone, here's the audit committee. This is what's happening. This is what they're doing. What are your questions? What do you want to know? Because it's not going to just come from me. So great questions. That was my purpose of getting on there, to elevate it. And I think that's really important. Justin also says, because I feel as a local solution before building, let's get our stock filled. Yeah, absolutely. I think eminent domain is something that we need to entertain for these buildings that folks have been able to depreciate year after year and take a tax benefit off of it. The Denny's that's on Wheaton Way has been empty for what, more than a decade. The Sizzler finally got a person in there, but there is a lot of stock here that is just sitting there, empty buildings.
The Sizzler got somebody in there because it still looks like it's an empty, depleted building.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. I believe it's going to be like a sushi restaurant or something like that.
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, there is movement on the Sizzler building, finally. But there's a ton of stock here, as Justin was alluding to, that is like, look, you know, if you're on hard times, let's have a conversation and see how you can support, those folks of getting tenants in there and revitalizing it, because you just don't want to take stuff from people. But if it's like, hey, you know what? My actuaries, my tax accountant says, I'm just saving money by just letting this building sit empty. Uh, and I've had conversations with realtors, and that is the play, then hey, for the greater good, right? And we do it for such worse
So,
insidious things. Like,
so
say,
you notice the dichotomy there?
what's that?
It's easier to leave it empty and not do anything with it. But oh my God, we've got a shortage. We've got to build and build and build and build and build.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
like going, huh, interesting. Math doesn't work out, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, Justin. I'm not going to argue with that. It's disgusting. Um, but and the thing is, and to Marwan's point earlier, yeah, people are going to have their opinions about this, and they don't want to be told what to do and what not to do. But at some point, it's not going to matter what they want or not want. It's all going to come crashing down if we continue on the path we're on. So I can just watch them do it, and I'm glad. I'm kind of glad I only have one child, and I wish her the best of luck. But the truth is, I work very hard to try and create a future for her. And the 80% of the people out there who just want to do whatever they want to do, they're going to do it anyhow. And in this case, I'm going to be working to get them through it. Good, Justin. I'm looking forward to meeting. I'm actually looking forward to meeting you. Justin says he has this Saturday off. We've been trying to meet, and I'm very excited about that.
Now, unfortunately, Justin, you won't meet me there because I'm never available on Saturdays. However, you can find me every Friday at Denny's from 2 to 4. So it is election related. However, uh, there is so much crossover in my life. We can talk about these issues. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Uh, it doesn't matter whether I win or lose. I'm not someone who's running to say, oh, you know what? If you elect me, I could do some things, right? I've been doing this work for years and years and years already. And so it doesn't matter whether I win or lose. I'm going to continue to do the work. So it come and have a conversation with me. That is where you can meet me. We'll have some fun. We'll have a cup of coffee. Obviously, it will be centered around the campaign. But these issues are all important to me, and these are things that I'm working on anyway already. Uh,
Mhm.
and that's why I'm running, because I'm hoping that I can actually
And
change some policy.
and as we're closing up, I wanted to say there's a really fun game I've been playing lately as I've been driving around Bremerton. I've been
Uh,
counting Marwan signs.
how many have you come
So
across?
I think 2025 in the different
Wow.
places I've been driving, in front yards and along the side of the road, and such as I play the counting game about where how many Marwan signs and where are they that I see them.
Shout out
So
to the team.
yep, I've been having a lot of fun with that one. So play along, see how many signs that you can spot of Marwan's, and help him get representation out there so that he can get elected and help push things along.
Well, I'll tell you, maybe I should do a contest of the first person that can find the 8 foot by 4 foot sign of me out in town. It's Not up yet, but it should be up by the end of the week. So maybe if you tell me where it is, then I owe you a cup of coffee at Denny's. Justin says,
There,
yes,
there are a few of
I
them. There, yeah. Go ahead and read it, and I'll tell the
oh,
thing. I've been looking for
okay.
those as well. He's saying that he hasn't seen too many of the opponent signs. I've actually seen 3 or 4 of them, but I see Marwan signs a lot easier. And I'm going to say something not about your opponent, but about
Mm.
politics and political operatives is, in general around Bremerton. Do they have their heads completely in a dark cavity? Um, the signs that they're putting out, when Kitty Walters ran, I had to stop and walk over to her sign to see who she was and what she was running for, because I couldn't tell from reading the sign. Whoever designing these signs is just an idiot, or whoever people, they're illegible. Marwan's opponent sign, the red on the light green, is really hard to read while you're driving, and the whole point is to get name recognition and see it. While as Marwan has the purple with the white, very easy to see.
And I'm
So
telling everyone where you can see my opponent signs.
Mhm.
Because I run a different campaign, right? I
Yeah,
come on together. We just have different ideas, right?
yep. And
And you might
again,
like
that was yeah. Again, that was not a comment on the opponents or the politicians in general, the people they're trying to get elected, but the people they're paying to do the design and such for them are not doing them a good service.
well, my campaign manager did an awesome job for me. Shout out to
Yeah,
Aaron.
you want to give her some work? You want to mention her name here?
I did. Aaron,
Oh,
Aaron. Oh, what's Aaron's last name?
oh,
Well, I call people by their first name, right?
yeah.
What is her last name? Oh boy.
So while he's looking that up, I'll do the last word because we're almost there. Um, and Marwan and I have a hard stop. We have to get to another
Aaron,
meeting.
Aaron Phillips.
Um,
Aaron
Aaron
Phillips.
Phillips. Okay, Aaron Phillips is doing good work. So the last word is, no matter what your experiences are in life, um, no matter what you think you want to do together, do differently in your past, think about where you're at and the fact that where you're at is a combination of all of the things that have happened to you, good and bad. And if you're not happy with that, then figure out what you need to do moving forward to be happy,
I like that
whatever
as your
that is.
final word. And my final word is to use both the positive, but especially the negative experiences in your life to make a better positive future. I
Yes,
do that. There's a lot of lessons in the mistakes and the trauma and the things that I've gone through. I use it as a cautionary tale as I, advise or counsel folks when I was teaching at OC. I get teach through storytelling, which is we've been doing since the beginning of time, and that's important. And if you can get a lesson from my mistake, then great, right? That's huge, right? I don't want
absolutely.
you to fall off the cliff
There's
that
some
I fell
applause
off.
for Marwan. Yes, I gave
and,
you the clap. Um,
yeah, thank you for the clap. I appreciate that. And let me just say, just really quickly, don't feel like that's the way that you have to go. You have to be at a certain spot in your life in order to be vulnerable in that way, right? No one can weaponize my past against me because I stand in my past, right? But if you're not ready to have that out there and have people speak critically or kind of tear you down or judge you or do things like that, don't do that yet, right? Because they will do that. And that'll be a setback for you. So I'm in a spot in my life now where I've got this coating of armor on and it strengthens me, and so it's a lot easier to do that. But I see a lot of times people are very passionate and they want to help, and so there's like, hey, this is what I went through, and this is what I'm being vulnerable here, and people weaponize it. So go
so,
ahead and try,
quick, okay,
but
quick
I
answer to Justin. We don't. Let's talk about that next week. Marwan and I actually do have to sign off right now. So, thank you for being at our show.
actually we the conduit did, and we're looking at bringing it back. So stay tuned.
All right.
All right, everyone. For Mark Boatwright Frost, I am R1 Cameron. This is Tipping Points and Puzzle Pieces. We'll see you soon.